We are going to have some fun today talking about 2014 and the seismic shift in the world that happened. So buckle up. I've got my Muppet cup. You should consider buying a Muppet cup at my store on Navigating Patterns or at the markofwisdom.org website. I've got some. Yeah, so I've been waiting to do this one for a while, actually. I have this little list of sort of seminal changing events from 2014 that I wanted to go into. And the approach here is going to be basically, I'm going to read off a bunch of events from 2014. And it's your job, to some extent, to find the patterns, to find the links. Let's dive into 2014. And one of the things I want to consider, and a lot of this is influenced by some recent events. We have the return of Sargon of Akkad, right? Carl Benjamin is back in his Sargon of Akkad suit, if you will, which is birthed out of 2014 at the very least, and talking about GamerGate 2.0, and he did a video on TradWise, which has nothing to do with TradWise, which led me down the Lauren Southern path, which I had really paid any attention to at all, and into some very interesting conclusions that just happened to weirdly segue right into the topic at hand, even though she is post 2014. So not in 2014, but in the wake of 2014 and the collapse of the old news media is Lauren Southern, right? And Rebel Media. She helps birth Rebel Media. That's her baby to a large extent. Rebel Media comes out of this guy who leaves TV news to do online news. Did you notice the name? Rebel Media. Let me explain something very important for people to understand. If you use the word rebel, you cannot be conservative at all, ever, in any way, shape, or form. It's not going to happen. Either you're using the language in a completely inappropriate way that does not communicate, or you're lying. In this case, they're lying. I know they're lying. I can prove that they're lying. It's not hard. Do you want to see fantasy projection? Do you want to see what it looks like to LARP in the real world? Power play? People trying to play for power without it working for them at all, or at least not for very long or much at all, right? Do you want to see hierarchy in action? Those people in the back are holding up the people that you see in the world. And when they are gone, the people that you see go away too. Why? Because what they're doing doesn't work. It doesn't work, folks. You think it works. You think you can play like a political game and be in politics. But it doesn't work. And here is the proof. The video that I watched, it is 3 hours. I'm not necessarily recommending that you watch it. If you want to see LARPing, if you want to see weird stuff, watch this video. It's amazing. I just finished it today. I was so enthralled by it. I'm like, no, I'm going to include this because this is right, for whatever reason, this is right up the alley of the split in 2014, of the changeover from where authoritative news comes from. Lauren Southern is telling herself a fantasy that she wanted to be a political person, that she was entering politics. Okay. The problem with this is that Lauren Southern is a freaking journalist and there was never anything else. And you could say about Mark, she did documentaries on political issues. Everything seems to be a political issue somehow. How is this possible that every single thing is political? Because it's not. You're misusing the word. And so is everybody else, or almost everybody else. Everything in the universe is not political. That's not a helpful way to think about things. But more importantly, this is the story of the hijacking of new media by greedy charlatans who were obvious. Tommy Robinson was not going to be the upstanding guy you wanted to represent you as a conservative, ever. He's a cokehead. Period. And a drunk who screws people and uses them. And they go along with it to some extent because they get something out of it. Even worse. The story's horrific. Absolutely horrific. And these people think their information is going to change the world. This is age of gnosis. I tweet about this all the time, right? Knowledge is propositions, and that is the highest value. Propositional knowledge. Propositions as such, super high value. So they think that's going to change the world. That makes them political actors because they're going to change the world. But in fact, it's all competing numbers, which, might be true to some extent. They're just actually kind of competing on numbers. But what kind of numbers? You listen to Lauren Southern and you hear her weaponized idealism. She wanted to be a voice for people, raising up the downtrodden. She says she's in politics. How? She's not being voted for. She's not changing people's votes to have them vote for somebody else. She isn't starting a political action committee. She isn't raising money for politicians, right? Issues aren't political beyond the fact that all things at a societal level are political in a sense. But again, that's useless. I used to have a great saying that politics is more than two people, because that's how people were using it. I'm like, politics cannot be more than two people, right? A lot of times they were describing diplomacy or they were describing government. And government is made up of two types of actors, roughly speaking, those that are elected and those that are not. Pretty simple, actually. That's politics. Elections, unelected government officials. That's politics. That's fine. It only works in the government, though. It doesn't, I'm not a political animal for, stating gays shouldn't get married. That's not a political statement, right? That's a personal opinion. And you can condemn me for that if you want. I really don't care. Your opinion means nothing to me. Sorry, just doesn't. Not on that issue, anyway. It's a worthless term when we use it this way. So we shouldn't use it that way. This woman is LARPing. She believes she was political. She wasn't involved in government in any way, shape, or form. She was involved in changing government policy. None of that. She's trying to act as a voice for the people. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. She's pointing out what the media is not telling you. Honey, the media is not telling you so many things. We ain't got time. I went over this again. I think it was either today or yesterday. Oh, no one's talking about the Uyghurs in the camps in China right now because we're too busy talking about Ukraine. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're not talking about Ukraine anymore. We're talking about Israel and Gaza now. What about the continent of Africa, where there's all kinds of bad things going on, and every once in a while it blips up on the radar? You think any of that changed? How about the freaking slave market in Libya? Could we talk about that? That seems way more important somehow, because it seems like something you could fix pretty easily, actually. We fixed it before. Weird. I should have looked up when that whole thing happened. I bet it was right around 2014. And Lauren Southern telling this horrific story of these just bad actors who are clearly not conservatives, including her. Not a conservative. Nothing conservative about the woman whatsoever. Very moderate. Not a conservative. I understand her story. People she knew were being attacked personally. And she's upset. And she wanted to do something about it because she felt like the people she loved were under attack. Fair. But she wasn't part of a movement. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. You want people part of a movement? That's Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Carl Benjamin. They did something. Lauren Southern was a flash in the pan. Not that it didn't have an effect, but it wasn't her effect. She left. Now she's back. After making more bad life choices. Fantastic. No politicians, no people trying to vote, no one getting into office, no one doing anything except rebelling against the structure or the power. That's not a movement. You're not a political actor. You're not in politics. All that really happened there was journalism. People were breaking into a whole new industry that had been opened up from this so-called deregulation of the news industry. Oddly, deregulation always seems like the opposite. It seems like they put regulations on, not take them off. And the cable news industry is created, which then breaks down because production becomes almost free. Hello? This doesn't cost me much. In parts, $100. Oh no, 120 with the lights, but $100 to start. I already had the laptop. I already had the internet connection. I would have them anyway. So really, that's not part of the cost of my broadcasting. What did CNN think? They were going to be able to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on camera equipment forever? Duh. They weren't doing any work. I watched them. They weren't doing any work. That was Tim Pool's complaint. Listen to Tim Pool in the early days. Timcast before it got big. He was still outpolling. He was outpulling CNN. Yeah, that was pre-fake news virus scam. He was outpulling CNN in that time slot for a better demographic even. In the meantime, all these people are on YouTube videos or documentaries or whatever, selling their personality. That's what they're selling. They're selling their personal experience. They're trying to be a real person, not just some detached journalist. They really care about what they're talking about. They want you to care too. They want to bring you into that. I'm not demonizing that, but trade-offs. I have a video on trade-offs. They're upset at being real and having people get intimacy confused and them wanting to be closer to these people. Now, I'm not saying that internet stalking is cool. No stalking is cool. It's not good for you and it's not good for them. Right? No matter which side you're on, doesn't matter. But I am saying you put yourself out there in a new way on a new medium that we actually know nothing about. We know nothing about the internet. Nothing. Just haven't had enough generations on it. 2014 is the beginning of people really getting on the internet. There's a reason why you want to have a professional journalist and not some ideologically possessed idealist like Lauren Southern going, I care because my friends are being attacked, my family's being attacked, people I know are being attacked. And the media is doing nothing about it. I mean, fair. But the cost is, yeah, people are trying to get more intimacy with you than you're comfortable with. And maybe you're young and you make a few mistakes and people find out that you've made a few mistakes and then they think, well, seems like that's on the table. And then, of course, at some point, for some people, it's not on the table. And then at some point, you don't want it to be on the table anymore. And you take it off the table. But now you get a rep. You're already known. And if you're selling your life and your experience and your emotional involvement in something on a screen, people can get confused really easily. Maybe they know you. Maybe if you knew them better, you'd want to be with them because they know you. They know they can be better to you than having nothing because you have nothing on the screen. There's the intimacy crisis. No wonder why we have an intimacy crisis. Way too much media in general, way too much ultra personal media, not personalized, that too, ultra personal media. Then you wonder why people are concerned about your health or trying to offer you free hotel rooms and flights to places. She tells this story. It's a remarkable video. in many ways. The words that she's using are just amazing. LARPing, totally delusional. All of them were. We're part of a conservative movement. None of you were conservative and you didn't move anything. Maybe you made some money out of it. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, your characterization of what happened did not happen. It's a delusion. There's your LARPing. Maybe 2014 is the beginning of the LARPing. And before that, when we had a system that we could trust, even if it was flawed, because it just turns out that all systems are made of people and all people suck and they're flawed, at least it was easier to filter things out. Maybe you don't send a 20-year-old girl around the world with strangers paying for her hotels and flights. And people who contact you and go, "Hey, we're gonna, give you a tour and get you a speaking tour going," and then steal all the money. Would have been nice if that didn't happen. If only somebody were looking out for her. If only she had been in a conservative family where they wouldn't have let that happen. You cannot fight for people you do not know. You cannot fight for causes you do not understand. You cannot fight for things you're not in, like politics or countries you don't live in. You can't do that. It's not possible. You can LARP. You can grab garbage containers, carve them up, and put them on as armor against real armor with riot police and then look like a fool on the internet. You can do that, but you're LARPing. Believing that you are defending an entity that never did anything and never had anything and never moved anything, never changed anything is delusional. Lauren Southern is delusional. These people were delusional. Tim Pool wasn't delusional. He built his company. Carl Benjamin wasn't delusional. He built his company. Ben Shapiro wasn't delusional. He co-founded the company. It should have been obvious. Milo is obviously not a conservative. Like, I don't know why I would have to tell anybody that. Like, what do you think your eyes are lying to you? Like, what's going on? Milo's just like a horrible human being. Like, just flat out awful human. Terrible. They're all narcissists too. All these people part of this movement. I'm glad I knew almost nothing of it. I'm very grateful. The idea of a dissident right. What is that? That's non-existent. You can't be a dissident conservative. It's just a contradiction. I am sorry. It just doesn't exist. Never has, never will. It's contradicted by the words. It's foolishness. It's nutty. It's crazy talk. The dissident right. I was part of the dissident right. No, you weren't. You were a moderate at best and an idealist. I'm not demonizing it, but like casting yourself as a conservative is like, no. And then other people agree. Oh, yeah, that's definitely what the conservatives are like. She ain't no conservative. She never was. That's nuts. And the thing is, you can have your LARPing, and people will use that for political purposes. By people who are actually in politics, for sure. They'll use you. You're just a pawn. Thinking that you could have been something more, thinking you were involved in something bigger than you could have been. And remember, the hierarchy's still there. Lauren Southern says in the video, all these guys, it's the support staff. Support staff goes away, they go away. They're not getting sent. Tony Robinson didn't get censored. He pissed off the two guys that were doing his videos and coming up with all these great ideas, and actually pissed off a woman who was doing the same thing for him. That's why he vanished. Without them, all he had was cocaine, booze, and hookers. Hey, he didn't have anybody to drag him out of that so he could work on something bigger than him. Their video editing was fantastic. Look at her. Look at Lauren Southern stuff. The same guys did a lot of Tommy Robinson stuff, but they organized everything too. They weren't perfect either, right? No one's perfect, as it turns out. It's almost like we live in a fallen world. Don't tell my buddy Bruce. But maybe this is what happens when you try to do something, engage in something bigger than you. something that you don't have any competence in. Maybe when you're incompetent and you try to LARP your way into politics or moving people politically or fighting for the people or whatever, and you're young and you have no idea what you're doing, maybe you get used. Maybe you fall into a world of narcissists who are all LARPing with small money. It's all small money operations. People with millions of dollars, maybe $10 million are donating to you. That's nothing. You're not in the top 10% of wealth. What are you doing? It's great that we live in a society where you can LARP and do all kinds of things because lots of people have lots of extra cash. But like at a certain point, what are you doing? You didn't move anything. It wasn't a movement. Come on. Effectively, what happened to these people, Milo included, they jumped into a game foolishly that was already over. The news media was already in decline. And there was a vacuum there for sure, right? But it was already over. The experiment of the so-called deregulated media was a failed enterprise. It didn't work. It's weird. It's always been the weirdest thing of my life. I've been watching this my whole freaking life. These people go, money corrupts, money's bad, money's evil. Then, in the same sentence, we should pay teachers more. Wait, what? That would be the last people you'd want to pay more. Oh no, we got to pay the working class more. If the working class are virtuous because they're poor, why would you pay them more? Are you just admitting that you want them to be corrupt like you are? Because that's what it sounds like to me. It's always sounded that way. I don't know why everybody doesn't scream about this every time they hear it. But it turns out that charging money for news is bad business, which is why it reliably strays into entertainment, where the real money always was. The news media inside the US, not anywhere else, because nowhere else had independent news media for the most part, except for newspapers. The news media was always government controlled. In the US, it was mandated if you wanted to do entertainment of any kind, you had to have a news department at your expense, unreimbursed. Money was not the issue. It was a loss leader. They deregulated the industry. Took a while for the industry to collapse. Took a new technology to kind of flip the tables. A lot of the local outfits actually benefited from this for a short time. I have no idea if they're still benefiting. But all in all, with the new technology, the rise of the internet, everybody adopting cell phones and internet service, at least in the US, bang. Everything turns into entertainment because that's where the real money is. That's why I'm a pirate. Problem for Lauren Southern is, and all these other people, they never really had a fan base of any quality. So when they turn on you, surprise is not appropriate. Welcome to LARPing. That's most of what I wanted to say about that. The real takeaway here is that there was a split, a technological split and a generational split at the same time. And it was around the source of authoritative information. Authoritative information is important because authoritative information is about filtering. You, dear Muppet, cannot take all the information in. You can't even take in a tiny fraction of a percentage. Sorry. The idea that you can filter or even build your own filters for information is so absurd. 2014. That was the collapse, man. Everything changed. Some good things came out of it. Tim Pool's got his thing. Carl Benjamin's got the Lotus Eaters. We've got the Daily Wire. All of those little media outlets have started to consolidate, right? Most of them are now consolidated. I think the Blaze has the rest of them or something. It's very interesting, right? But we need a single source for the truth. That's what I used to call it in computers. Single source for the truth. It doesn't have to be like one news outlet, right? But if there's 4 groups of people, we need 4 single sources of the truth for those groups at the very least. 2 is a bad number. It's a binary. It's wrong. Nothing in this world is a binary. Sorry, just bad way to think about the world. Always. Lauren Southern was never into politics. So silly. They made a documentary. I'm glad you did. That doesn't make you a politician. It doesn't put you in politics. It certainly doesn't make you conservative. It doesn't matter what the documentary is about. Conservatism is about your behavior in the world. It's not about believing that immigration needs to be done carefully. Like, that's not conservatism. Certainly, embracing new media and trying to manipulate the population is not a conservative move. It's just not. Why are people crazy? What did you notice about 2014? Anything interesting, or was that list? I mean, I think if you think about it long enough, you'll find more and more things like, oh, I mean, the Ukraine war being 10 years old, like, people don't think of it that way, but definitely, there's no question about it. There's been continuous fighting for 10 years in Ukraine. And people don't think about it, but it's been that way. It's been that way. This whole woke stuff all started. BLM, all this stuff. I mean, it all kind of happens in 2014, all at the same time. Everyone seems to be trying. I don't know why. This penchant for war that people have, does anybody get it yet? They don't want war. They're trying to get one. Anything can corrupt you. Anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Drugs,
yeah. If anything besides God is
depression.
corrupting you. You know
I
what I
seem
mean?
to remember. I seem to remember something. The love of money is the root of all evil, or probably a better translation, leads to all kinds of evil.
Because money can be an addiction for anything. You can do anything.
Anything can corrupt you, though. And yeah, if you love the wrong thing, you don't have to love money for corruption to happen, right? You can love your own identity too much, and then you end up in identity politics.
Yeah.
Right? You can love the idea of being a conservative warrior, part of a movement like Lauren Southern.
Yeah.
And she never notices she's not conservative. For me to reflect my values too, if I'm poor, I either have to transmit them over the freaking internet, like I'm doing now, or you have to meet me in person. Like, there's no other way. Everything else is a reflection. It's the other thing that Lauren Southern talks about in that 3-hour monstrosity video that's just a delusion about her LARPing, and she doesn't know it. It's, these people were fakes. And everybody's following them along, and they're stealing money, and they're asking for donations and taking all the donations and then saying, the person administering the money did it, not me, and like throwing them under the bus, and no one's squealing on anyone else. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? You people are sociopaths.
Yeah.
You're not conservatives, you're sociopaths.
I think the idea of LARPing with like development, because I think if you're trying to like change a lot, you're going to be an imposter syndrome. You're going to have the imposter syndrome like state more often, I feel.
Maybe. I don't buy into imposter syndrome.
Really?
I think that's
I've whenever I get like a promotion, I'm like I know when I was manager at Skechers, I was like, I don't feel like I know.
Imposter syndrome is something imposter syndrome is something that you feel when you're unconfident about your ability.
Yeah, that happens whenever you go out to unexplored.
No, that happens to some people. It's never happened to me.
Really? Okay. I don't know.
No, I assume if somebody asks me to do something that they believe I can do it, and I go, that must mean that I can do it.
Like the other day, one of my managers, he just asked me to go on a job by myself to install some stuff. You know what I mean? And he was just kind of like, figure it out. I'm gonna go, and I'm not really sure how to do this. And like, I think that's what you have to do. I mean,
your imposter syndrome is optional.
How to learn by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to follow directions, but
that either means that you're always an imposter, which is silly. Like, why waste your time using the term? Or it's a bad frame, or it's a very specific frame, but it's a personal frame. It's nothing anybody. Like, I can't look at somebody else and tell that they have imposter syndrome. That's impossible. It's something that's personal to their experience. And it's just a sign of low confidence, low self-confidence. I'm not saying it never happens.
What happens when you just like are at a position that you're just not fully, because sometimes you kind of fall back. You're behind your confidence level or behind your competence level or something like that, where it's like, I've been in this job for too long, I need to do something else. And sometimes you get thrust too forward.
Yeah,
and you're like,
but John, we have a better word for that. It's called
I'm not the first you think I am.
No, it's called incompetence. Like, some people are incompetent. Like, this is the problem with stupid people. Stupid people don't know they're stupid. Delusional people don't know they're delusional.
I think
they're not in a state. They're not.
I mean, do people know they're stupid? I mean, like, don't you think there's kind of variability with that? Like, some people probably think they're stupider than they are, and then some people probably think they're way smarter than they are. I think that's probably.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the external reality. See, this is what people get mixed up.
How is that not? Yes, it is. You can't just believe whatever is in your head.
How I feel is my internal reality. You have no access to it. You're external to me. You have no access to it. None. Zero.
Okay,
you don't have access to it.
Reality manifests in the world.
No, it doesn't. No, it absolutely does not. That's the confusion everybody has.
Yeah, whatever you're thinking about, you'll head towards.
Lauren Southern said on a video a year ago, I don't know how she feels about it now, that she was a conservative. She's never been a conservative ever. The woman is delusional.
A little foolish. I mean, she doesn't know what the word conservative, because people conflate the term conservative.
Delusional.
I purposely do this on my that's why I say deeply closeted conservative man on my Twitter. Is because, like, yeah, I'm obviously not conservative, but like, if I'm talking to a lot of liberals for a long time, they'll realize that, like, why does this guy have traditional values? They don't realize it because I don't think they even know what traditional values are. That's why I say deeply closeted, because, like, you can't tell.
Right. You don't have to worry. Right.
Kind
of.
Not purposely, but just what my aims are. You know what I mean? This is
John, look at the people. Look at the people who cut up garbage barrels and rushed the cops in riot gear. They're delusional. They don't know they're delusional. They have no concept that they're delusional. They think they're heroes and they're going to win this battle of rushing through the lines of riot police in riot gear when they're dressed in plastic.
Maybe the term delusional is definitely relevant.
Yeah, that's not necessarily delusional. We don't have full access to reality as such the way we want to join the club.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But like Lauren Southern, like, she's just delusional. Like, she's like, I was part of a political movement. No, you weren't. I was part of the conservative political movement and part of rebel media. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, what are you talking about? That's lunacy.
I haven't been living under a rock, and I've been, relatively following conservative politics since probably 2018. I don't know who Lauren Southern is or Rebel Media, so I don't know. Maybe she wasn't part of it. I don't know.
She pretty much built Rebel Media to a large extent. Yeah. And that was the thing. Like, that was the split. The guy who started Rebel Media left TV media. He left the TV scene and exited and started an online thing. And then so did everybody else. Like, they all started in 2013, 2014.
That's always going to be the natural move, though. I mean, people who did that the first were probably, even if they went to something that ended up failing, like, at least they were kind of ahead on the curve, being like, oh, infinite data, infinite channels. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Of course, the problem is that, like, it selects for quality, and so it's like everyone just watches, like, Jordan Peterson and John Oliver, and you know what I mean? Like, those channels both get like billion views, and then like, but like,
ends up
John Oliver's
right.
funny.
But everything always ends up around a hierarchy. Like, even within her little movement, Milo, for some reason, was part of the, like, he's the man, and he's a total scumbag. Like, he's just a bad person. Like, everything about him is awful. Everything. He's just horrible. Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh.
He was lying about everybody. He was trying to blackmail everybody. Literally trying to blackmail everybody. And everybody's trying to blackmail everybody else. Tommy Robbins is trying to blackmail people. Like, everybody's trying to blackmail everybody else except Lauren, right? She's the only squeaky clean person in this, apparently. And I believe her. Like, she sounds like a crazy idealist who was LARPing to me, right? And the thing is, none of them are smart enough to just pull the curtain off and say, nah, bro, you're trying to blackmail people. I'm not going to believe you.
What do you mean by blackmail?
They were trying to blackmail each other. They were trying to get dirt on each other and then use it to threaten and say, you have to let me in on your tour. You can't go to South Africa without me. You can't go to Australia without. It's stupid things.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, because they were trying to
much about
steal
Milo.
each other's audience.
I was happy for him to share his like experience that like of how the gay community often functions. Because I'm like, yeah, I've seen that a lot. Like, yeah.
The gay mafia.
Yeah.
The gay mafia is not real. Oh, yes, it is.
So,
yeah. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard these people's names, but I hope they're not wildly influential because I don't know anything about them.
No, they weren't.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
the thing.
Keep going to church. Keep going to church and working on genes, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. But like that's the thing. She's thoroughly convinced she was part of a movement, and she didn't move anything. Real. It's one of the things Lauren Southern said. She said these guys like Tommy Robinson, when they lose their support staff, you don't see them anymore. That's not because they were censored. That's because they lost the talent. Because you can't do that alone. You can think, oh, I've got a cell phone. I can be popular alone, but almost no one can actually pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys have support staffs. All the big YouTube channels, they all have editors and support. I have an editor, thank goodness. Right. That was the monologue, was basically me going through all the things in 2014 and then hitting Lauren Southern, who had an interesting interaction in Australia, actually, that I found fascinating. That was the most fascinating story I've ever heard.
Is that when she met the American Fed guy? Was it here or there? Anyway,
she met him there, yeah.
So when's the GFC? It's 2008, 2009.
I don't know.
So like the 2014 era is the that's
Lauren Southern's
evergreen.
just after that, right? But she's born from that split. 2014 is actually the split in the media, when the mainstream media starts losing like crazy and the online media just blows up, and she comes right into that.
Can you quickly search when Facebook bought Instagram? I wonder if that's around the same time. It might be a bit after, a bit before, but I feel like there was 2014 is this kind of tentpole in what social 2012. Okay, well, so that would also make sense because
a lot of things happened in 2012 that led to 2014.
Yeah,
but the interesting thing is because the Lauren Southern thing came late, it became Sargon of Akkad did a video called Trad Wives, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I watched it and I'm like, Carl, what are you talking about? Like I don't even understand what you're doing in this video. Everything in your video is wrong. Like I don't understand, dude. Like usually you're spot on, and this time you're so far off. It's crazy. Like, and then I watched this video from a year ago that I think Adam, of course, posted it because he's awesome. And I finished it like just before the stream even, right? But it's Lauren Southern a year ago talking about what happened. And she goes, well, I'm a conservative. And I'm looking at her like, you are not a freaking conservative, honey. I hate to break it to you, but there is nothing conservative about your life. And even the way she tells the story, not conservative. And then she says, well, I wanted to get into politics. And I'm like, you weren't in politics. What are you talking about, you crazy person? And she's talking about the cult-like aspect. That's the word she uses multiple times. And then it turns out that everybody in the quote, dissident conservative movement. And I'm like, you can't have a dissident conservative movement. What are you talking about? And then she said, she basically, like Milo and all those guys, they're all scumbags who are blackmailing one another. For real. So it was just them LARPing the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's all small money. It's all small. Like, I mean, it's big money to people, but it's small money compared to like mainstream media. Like it's not hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not even that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Conflation. That's the kind of seems to be the theme of 2014 is when
LARPing
another way to
split.
Yeah, it's a
There's
sleight
a
of
big
hand.
split.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of LARPing. I mean, she's sitting there a year ago just telling the story about how she wanted to be in conservative politics. And I'm like, you weren't in a movement. You didn't move anything. What are you talking about? You're a lunatic. Delusional.
Yeah. Movements are always defined in hindsight, which is what you've just said there. Which is very true. Yeah.
Right. You can't, like, things move all the time. So that's not helpful. Like, the fact that people get confused about this constantly. Like, I had this on a live stream I did on Destiny there, right? Like, these people are like, no, guys, people rally all the time. Things move all the time. You have to have a better definition because these things are constant. They don't change. Like, there's always movements going on. There's always flags being rallied around. There's always people getting together. There's always this stuff happening. The question is whether or not it has an impact on the world and what that impact is, whether it's good or bad. That's where the brass tacks come from. Not the emergence. This is the emergence as good people, right? Like, a thing emerged. It must be good. And it's like most of the things that emerge are not good. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As we've pointed out, so there's a few things that are emerging or kind of coalescing from events that happened in the past that led up to a milestone or a signpost or an outlier being 2014. It's probably true to say that the polis, what's the right way to say, the instrumentation of politics becomes more apparent in 2014. Where everything that's
actually, I think it became completely hidden.
Well,
because of the LARP.
It's one of the same. It's one of the same actually, because containment and shadowing. Right,
but in an unhealthy way, and I think that goes to Ixnan's thing. At some point, it's not even LARP; it's RP. No, RP is something you do in your basement with your friends, or in a basement with your friends. LARP is when you do it in public. Right? That's really the difference, ultimately. And they were LARPing. They were doing it in public. Like, had they played, like, conservative political dissident, whatever the hell that could possibly mean in whatever universe they're living in delusionally in their head, in the basement or in the basement of the gaming store or something, it wouldn't have mattered. But the thing that happened was the opposite of what they were trying to do occurred. And I think that Jesse nailed it, right? It's because the political, in a way, became, the force was exerted without you noticing, because what you saw were these rebels who were fighting, these conservative rebels. None of who are conservative. Milo Yiannopoulos is not conservative. Never was. Never had a shred of conservatism anywhere near him. Conservatism to Milo Yiannopoulos would have been like holy water, would have burned him up, and he would have, for sure. Like, I don't even know why I'd have to say that. Like, look at the guy. Like, he's a clown. He's going for entertainment. He's going for attention. He turns out to be a narcissist, according to Lauren Southern. I have no reason not to believe that part of her story. Lauren, I think she's a crazy idealist, but she's not conservative. She got freaking used by that whole machine, and everybody made money off her. Everybody. And that's horrible. And I don't think she's processed that trauma yet at all. She keeps saying, like, no, I did it for the idealism, and therefore it's okay that I get completely, taken for every dime and dollar that I made everybody else. I don't think that's good at all. That's not healthy for her.
Yeah, like what else? I think another probably a reference point here too is there's two things. There's the change in the type of media people are consuming. So we went from a sort of text, very limited, very one-directional media style to this verbal style where it is it's a call and response. It's you could say it's non-binary in another aspect too. It's very reactive, or there is no passiveness in a verbal conversation. It always is frenetic and very activating in some sense. Where you can read about a. I was going to the reference in my head was, music journalism kind of changes from 2012 to 2014. Before, you could read about the latest top 10 albums or whatever, and you could, that's interesting information. But now we're in 2014, and it's, well, I'm going to needle drop some songs, or I'm going to give you the direct link.
Right.
And now it's not just information, it's a call to action, or it's a lead in, whatever. And there's that confusion between
but it's a flattened participation.
That too.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I talked about this sort of at the end of the monologue. It's like you get this flattened participation with somebody like Lauren Southern, who is, and at some point I got to go into this anyway, she's sexually signaling constantly.
Maybe it's a topic.
But everybody sits there and goes porn, and I'm like, no. Porn is the end result. Porn's the end result of something that already happened. And so you can't deal with the porn. That won't help. That won't do anything. And you can't get rid of it anyway. And that's the narcissism. I mean, one of the lessons you get from the video I posted earlier, the Lauren Southern video, is three freaking hours. It was a slog. But like, she talks about the narcissism that's in this conservative political rebel movement. She builds, like, she's the reason why this company called Rebel Media actually takes off. Like, she is. It's called Rebel Media, Jesse. Like, you can't make this up.
Oh gosh.
I'm part of the conservative political movement because a guy started from TV, left TV to start an online thing called Rebel Media, and that makes me part of a political conservative movement. And I'm just like, what? How delusional was she? She's still that delusional, apparently, too. Like, she's still casting herself as a conservative. I'm like, you are the least conservative person of all time. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, it would be more conservative if you were hedonistic and repentant. But you're just like, go. She actually gets flown out to LA. Doesn't occur to, she's like 20 or something, right? Doesn't occur to her that like free tickets and free lodging are not free. And she was reflecting on this. She's reflecting on this after the fact, which is good, I guess. But like, if you're in a conservative family, your parents wouldn't let you do that. Like, what the hell? Like, the men in your life should be protecting you from the other men. Like, I don't even understand. What do you think conservatism is? My God.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Well, and that was the mistake that Sargon made. He's like, trad wives, is there room on the right for women? And I'm like, what are you high? They're the ones having all the kids. There must be room for women. Like, I don't know. Is that like a difficult math equation in the UK? Like, do the English not understand how this works? Of all the people on the planet.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened to in again that 2012 to 2014 cycle. There was a frame switch in what we call or classify as conservative, and what I believe you've just said is that conservative as a ethos, as a belief system, is about protecting what is divine and beautiful about women and trying to conserve that and keep that to keep that in its proper place, to give it a proper structure, and to actually create the cohesion within society where creatures that are most vulnerable to all elements of life can bring life to others, or can bring life to the community. How's that as a general matrix? And then of thought. Well, and then the switch there is between conservative is just about economics, or it's just about
your ideological position on an issue. Like, conservatives don't have ideological positions on anything. Like, that's just not, conservatism is about conserving. So you wouldn't waste a young woman on work, on that kind of work. Like, you wouldn't waste her on that kind of work. right? Like maybe you let her earn her way into it, or have her kids first, or whatever, right? Or maybe you let her, do the impossible, because some people can do the impossible and have a career and kids, whatever. That's super rare. Jordan Peterson talks about this. Super rare. It's not you. Like, you're not doing that. Like, maybe somebody can, but that somebody is never you. You're not the outlier that you see. Like, you're just not. But then what happens is you have rebel media. So you have this rebel group of people self-identifying as conservative, when any idiot looking at them knows they're not conservative, bringing themselves down into a space where conservatives don't play. Conservatives read their news. They always have. They're readers. They're not TV watchers. Well, because most of them are working the farm, and so they read monthlies. Like, they're not daily engaging in news. They're busy.
Oh yeah.
But people don't realize that. Like, they don't daily engage in news, and they have the Taleb model. I want last month's news. I don't want this month's news. It hasn't happened yet. Like, a month is just long enough that you know what happened.
Well, naturally, because they're sort of there's you could say there's a distinction between like the strategy to which they apply in life, and they're far more long term, because just that's the better rhythm to which to preserve and protect things.
Right.
If you're going through a fast life history strategy, you want danger because it's maximizing potential and opportunities. But you're doing so. You're going to be in a land of confusion, in some sense. You're going to be, and that's. But then that acceleration is also something that we can see. Yeah.
But that's the shift of the Overton window, right? Because now you have these self-identified conservatives who aren't even remotely conservative come down into the space where conservatives aren't, and fight a battle using the same language and the same tools as their enemies, quite literally. Lauren Southern's out holding signs to antagonize the people who are effectively, I mean, the way she told it in that video, they were saying bad things about people she knew and cared about, and she was protecting them. I was like, ooh, motherly instinct, huh? She was mama bear. That's effectively just what she described. I was like, are you listening to what you're saying, honey? Because, like, wow, it's a hell of an admission. She hasn't integrated any of it. You can tell she hasn't integrated any of what happened to her. And it's just like, wow. And then the whole time, she's not taking responsibility for the bad actions that she sees going on.
Hey, I need to go. I just looked at the time.
Okay. See you, sir. Good to see you.
Take care. Continue good work. Bye.
Thank you. I shall try. I hope that people see something about 2014 and that they tell others about this videos they can watch and kind of judge for themselves. Was there a big split 10 years ago that, most people missed? And how significant is this? Because if nothing else, it's a sign. Lawrence Southern and Milo Yiannopoulos and all these other clowns were not conservatives at any point in their lives. They were not. They still are not. They might get there someday, maybe. On the other hand, you can look at Tim Pool in particular, who was a hardcore anarchist. And through success, through the participatory experience of success, has just become more and more and more conservative. I don't like right wing. That's nonsense talk. I don't like left wing. That's nonsense talk. But certainly conservatism. I don't like Carl Benjamin's alleged liberalism. That's impossible. The word liberal by itself, unconstrained, is meaningless. It can never convey meaning. That's the problem. Words require context. If you use a single word, there's no context by definition. Classical liberalism makes sense. That's why I think Peterson gloms onto it. Things changed. A bunch of self-referencing happened. That was the year of LARPing. That's when the LARP started, if you want to put it in those terms. I don't particularly like those terms, but actually there is a truth to it if you use it carefully enough. And that changed the world. And we're living in that skeptical cynicism. I have a video on that, on navigating patterns, skeptical cynicism that is destroying everything. It's just wrecking everything because you're seeking to know things that maybe you can't know. But you also don't need to know. That came up in the procedural knowing. You follow the procedure, or you can follow the ritual without understanding anything about it, and miracles will happen. And that's good enough. You don't need to know why or how. You just don't need to. And most of the things you're doing now are strictly procedures that you're mimicking that you have no idea about. You did not learn in a book. You did not get educated on in any way that you would recognize. You did not get taught in the traditional sort of fashion in any way that you would recognize. And that's okay. Embrace it. Wonderful things can happen. Stare out your window, see what flies by, right? Had dragonflies today. Very beautiful. I was out in the yard. I wasn't out in the yard nearly enough. I am at some point going to do stream from what hopefully will be my new outdoor office. So probably not this stream because it gets dark. But look, I did a stream on this Clown Destiny, similar sort of situation. This is part of the milieu of the LARPing. Those guys are all LARPing, every single freaking one of them. Some of them more successfully than others, and some of them less than others. Destiny's full LARP, obviously. What a clown. Andrew Tate, I don't like what he's doing, but like everyone's forcing me to support him more. I keep trying to knock him down and failing. That's not helping your cause. Maybe it should tell you something when you spotlight something like Lauren Southern did, and then it grows because your movement fails. Maybe that should tell you something about the utility of your movement. So listen, everybody, it was great. Leave some comments, tell your friends, threaten your relatives, whatever it takes. Let's get the viewership up. I think this stuff is important. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a great week. Thank you very much.